This is the myth that you debunked. The myth is this: Donald Trump wasn't the choice of religiously devout Christians. I'm going to repeat it. Donald Trump wasn't the choice of religiously devout Christians. So I'm going to start with myself. One of the most influential books for me in probably the last 10 years was Tim Carney's Alienated America, which you directly address inside of the book. And I actually do have some pushback questions in here, so this will be a fun conversation. But one of his arguments is that amongst people who are devout, so we might say are attending church every week or every week plus, Donald Trump was not the choice in the primary. They were going to pick someone like Ted Cruz over Donald Trump. And he made the point in his book, it seems to me, that people who seldom went to church, never went to church, they were the ones who really elevated Trump. They're the ones who got him through the primary and got him the nomination. Now, there's a whole element that I'd love to discuss with you about in a little bit, which is that he talks about regionality being a part of it too, and I'm curious how that fits into things. But let's throw out Tim Carney for a second, and let's just start with this thing, because I have taught this, I've said this so many times, that Donald Trump wasn't the choice. The real Christians didn't vote for Trump in the primary. Why am I wrong?
Because the data says you're wrong, Patrick. That's the problem.
All right, next myth. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
But here's what's funny. I use the exact same data that Tim Carney used in Alienated America.
So you think he was dishonest?
Okay, I'm not going to say he's dishonest, but I'm saying he also didn't do the data analysis either. He offloaded that to someone else who then gave him the numbers that he put in his book because he's not a data analyst. I'm always wary whenever whoever does the data analysis is not the person writing the thing. Because there's this slippage that happens sometimes, right? Where you don't exactly know what the point you're trying to drive towards. And I use the exact same data that they use, and I broke it down. They kind of bend it together. So like seldom, never, weekly, more than once a week. I said, let's take every attendance level, which goes from never, seldom, yearly, monthly, weekly, more than once a week, right? So there's 6 categories. I said, let's look at each individually because there's not people in the sample to do each individual. And what if you do that, what you see is Donald Trump was the favorite amongst never attenders, seldom attenders, yearly attenders, monthly attenders, and weekly attenders.
That was the shocker
for me.
Group.
Yeah. The only group that he did not win with are those who attend more than once a week.
And where did he come for them?
What, 10% of evangelicals, I think? I can't remember the number off the top of my head. It's a small number, though. So, and by the way, Cruz only won by like 8 points amongst that group, while Trump was winning by 12 or 14 points in the other attendance groups. So I think, and this is something like that I hate to use this word, what Big Eva has done, elite evangelicals have done. They've created a kind of this like facade where it's like, oh, we didn't vote for Donald Trump. But when he became the primary, choice, we all just had to line up because we hate Democrats and they're baby killers and we don't like Hillary Clinton. So we had to vote for Trump. No. You all liked Trump from the start. Okay. You preferred Donald Trump. But to me, that's the problem though, because then you have to dig below that. Which is why. Why would you pick Cruz has evangelical bona fides like almost no candidate that we've had in the last 20 years. And Rubio's not bad either, right? He's Catholic, but he also goes to an evangelical megachurch in Florida. Why would you not pick Rubio or Cruz? And I'll give you one good instance right now, because early on in the primary, Donald Trump came out hardline against immigration, right? And we shut down all immigration from Muslim countries. And we need to stop all, immigrants are racist and killers and all that kind of stuff. While Cruz and Rubio had actually worked with the Bush administration in 2008 on a pathway to citizenship for people who were here illegally, but hadn't broken any laws and wanted to become, permanent citizens of this country. And guess what? That's capitulation. They liked the hardline anti-immigrant stuff. And that's a hard truth to grasp. I mean, that's a truth pill. You got to sit there and think about that for a second. Evangelicals do not like immigrants. Like the majority of evangelicals do not like illegal immigrants, but they also don't like legal immigration.
I want you to lean in there, right? So yeah. I just want to make sure we didn't make a leap from you don't like immigration, even legal immigration, to you don't like immigrants. Those are two different things. So where did you get you don't like immigrants?
Because why would you be opposed to legal immigration if you don't like immigrants?
Oh, there could be lots of reasons. So let me just, by the way, again, remember, this is coming from someone. We've done a podcast where we argued for let's have more legal immigration. Let's have a pathway to citizenship. So that's where I'm coming from. But let me argue the other side. Yeah. The other argument goes like this. I'm a working class blue collar guy, and when you bring these immigrants in, they come, they take my job, they take my work. Now, whether or not that's true to the data, that's my perception.
It's not, by the way.
I agree, it's not, but I'm going to say that's my perception of reality, right? And so the reason why I don't want more immigrants is because you're threatening my lifestyle, my way of life by allowing these people in, and I'm already barely making it. So how could you possibly do that? That does not sound to me like I don't like immigrants. It sounds like I don't like immigration.
But it also sounds like you're villainizing someone for your plight in life. And that's where I struggle. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Do you feel politically homeless? Join the club. Both parties are becoming more tribal and neither fully represent the values of Jesus. Christians need a path forward that leaves partisanship behind.
That's why we wrote Truth Over Tribe, pledging allegiance to the lamb, not the donkey or the elephant. Together, we can end tribalism.
Pre-order the book on Amazon and let's start a movement.
Okay, so here's what's happened. Globalization has ruined the middle class in America. Like, that's just a statistical fact, right? We can talk all day about income inequality and how the rich are getting richer and the average American is making less money now adjusted for inflation than 40 years ago, which is an absolutely terrible, pernicious problem, right? But what's causing that? It's because our jobs are going overseas because they're doing it for $5 an hour instead of $30 an hour because they'll do it over there, right?
Yeah.
So think about Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Right? They both saw the same problem, which is the middle class is falling farther behind. And Trump blames it on immigration largely, right? Says immigrants are coming to take your jobs. They're going overseas, blah, blah, blah.
He also
and Bernie
blamed
blames it on rich people. What's that?
He also blamed it on China and offshoring industry.
That's
just
true.
fair. I mean, I get
true.
No Trump fan here, but
but what I'm saying is, how can you stop that? Bernie Sanders says it's because rich people are taking too much money, right? It's the rich who are bearing down on the poor people, not paying them more. It's all corporate greed and all that stuff. They both saw the same problem. They had two completely different scapegoats for who the villain is, right? Is it rich people or is it immigrants? I don't think that's a very good way forward. I don't think creating villains is a way that we move forward. Do I think rich people should be taxed more in this country? Absolutely, I do. I think we should have more immigration in this country? I absolutely do. But I'm also not a liberal, right? I think we should have a more open. And by the way, the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian right-wing organization, thinks we should have a ton more legal immigration in this country because if you want to grow GDP, it's really the only way to get there because Americans are not having that many babies anymore because it's too darn expensive to do so.
No, but by the way, like again, I'm totally with you. We should have more immigrants. I mean, one of my big pushbacks with Donald Trump, and he's talking about the right kind of immigrants coming over, which I realized was very racially coded, is the irony that you're talking about bringing over secular Europeans who do not share our values and bringing them over into the United States and saying that's the kind of person we want. Whereas you can bring people from Central America, South America, Africa, who are largely Christian or even Islamic, who share many of the same social values that we have. And so actually immigration is great if you want traditional social values. It's one of the funny things. You know, I would love, if you could find this, I mean, I'd really be curious. If there's a study out there that could actually show, because I'm still not convinced that not liking legal immigration equals not liking immigrants. I'm also not convinced that it doesn't have anything to do with that. I'm with you. That's a question I'd want to ask. But I would love to see a study that actually bears out the claim.
Can I give you an anecdote?
Yes.
Remember when Syria was going through a civil war and there were millions of refugees moving from Syria? What did the Republican Party say? We don't want those people coming here. And a lot of people on Facebook said, we don't want those people coming here.
Yep.
And then Ukraine got invaded. And you know what happened? America said, come on over. What's the difference?
They're Middle
Describe
Eastern.
to me the difference. I think one is because they're brown and one's because they're white.
Well, I think it's because I can't believe I'm in the position of defending all this, but this is amazing. Okay. I think to be fair, it would be more like this. In Syria, Middle Eastern culture, they have associations with 9/11, with terrorists. I don't trust that we can vet whether or not someone we're bringing over has some sort of association with a terrorist organization. Now, again, am I saying that's not racially coded? Well, of course it is. Like, and by the way, I was for bringing more Syrians over. I just don't know if it's white, brown as much as cultural differences that we're looking at. And it wasn't just us, by the way. It was Europeans who absolutely had zero interest in bringing Syrians over. And I think there's a question as to whether Europeans have the same racial hierarchy that is present in the United States because they didn't practice slavery the way we did.
So you've actually brought up a really good point, which I love to make all the time, which is Americans think, a lot of like liberal Americans think the problem with America is Christians are xenophobic. Most of Western Europe is completely secular at this point, and they did not want to welcome Syrian refugees.
Oh, no.
So it's not religion that's doing it, folks. I mean, people act like, if we get there's so many people in America like, we get rid of religion, we have a better place. I'm like, oh, yeah, Western Europe's figured it all out. They got rid of religion. They got no xenophobia, no nationalism, no racism, no problems there because they got rid of religion. It solves all your problems. It's just a myth, right? Which I didn't put in the book, but I should have. The idea that like religion is causing this, I don't think it's religion that's causing this, which by the way is my overarching argument. I don't think it's about religion much anymore. I don't want to talk myself out of a job, obviously. I don't think religion matters as much as we think as politics do, right?
Oh, I
That's
agree.
like actually like a big shift in like the way we think about political science now. We used to think about religion was like the first lens and politics was like downstream of that. So like you voted, you looked at the world through a theological worldview and then you voted based on your theological worldview. Now we know, and actually the data is becoming very clear on this last 5 or 10 years, is the opposite's true. You pick your church based on your partisanship, right? And you look at the Bible through a way that justifies whatever position. I saw someone on Facebook who was a very, very involved Christian, probably way more, goes to church way more than I do. And she said, I can't find a single verse in the Bible that says we should welcome in refugees. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I don't think the Bible speaks crystally clear about that, but I can definitely tell you welcome to strangers shows up a couple times in the Old Testament.
Not just a couple times,
a
couple times attached to the most profound command, which is, I rescued you when you were foreigners in Egypt and brought you in, and so shall you treat other people. I mean, he attaches it to the Exodus. It's about as deep as you can get.
Your partisanship says, I'm going to create blind spots, right? It's almost like you have like a vision problem, right? A genetic vision problem where you cannot see certain things because your mind does not want to be challenged. You want to be reinforced. And so what you do is you say, well, the Bible backs me up, even though it probably doesn't back you up on things like immigration, taxation, regulation, all those things, because it really doesn't speak with one voice. I mean, we can get into discussion about first order issues like abortion, gay marriage, transgender versus second order issues like immigration, taxation, things like that.
Yeah.
But no one's been able to answer this question for me definitively. If evangelicals vote because of a theological worldview, then why are they anti-taxation and for low regulation and really don't have a high view of immigration? Because those aren't first order biblical issues. Where do those ideas come from? I'm telling you where they come from. They come from partisanship, not religiosity.